Race frames dominating the top 10, but it's not over till that fat lady sings, as they say in the classics. The smaller machines dominated amongst the motorcycles, but
a dusty swan song for Toyota's 4x4 Hilux at the 12th Toyota 1000 Desert Race last weekend in Freiburg. Disappointment as 4-times winner Springbok Jeremy Davies retires 53 kilometres into the first day's racing section. Stepping briefly out of retirement, Bux Carolyn makes his 10th attempt at this race, which he's only finished once before. Natal's Alfie Cox dominates on day one, leading the 478-kilometre section from Freiburg to Severn for most of the day. 1990 Toyota 1000 winner Richard Schilling looks set to repeat history after he and Ashley Thorne arrived at the overnight stop first on day one. Toyota invites you to share in the trials and tribulations of some of the competitors entered in the 1992 Toyota 1000 Desert Race. Tangerine dawn greeted competitors last Saturday morning. The desert silence was shattered as engines coughed into life, and long before official start time, the Veld was abuzz with activity as campers prepared themselves for a long haul back to Freiburg. Ahead of the competitors lay the previous day's route in reverse. Incorporated this year was our brand new 160-kilometre section, never before raced in this event. New too was the refuel point, which was moved 10 kilometres down the river to Ganap. First off the start line would be the Motortech racegoer Richard Schilling and Ashley Thorne, with last year's winner Klaus Degener, along with Jeff Bell in the BP Chenoweth in hot pursuit. Countdown as the sky changed from pink to blue, and the leading racecar was off in a cloud of Kalahari dust.
It wasn't there.
You threw a gate and you turned right.
For those behind him, it would be one long tussle to overtake, and Klaus Degener would be watching for every opportunity. Cassie Coetzee and Richard Leek had faith in their turbocharged Toyota Hilux, and were confident they'd do well. Being in a single-seater with no assisting navigator, Bux Carolyn would find it more difficult than others to overtake or maintain his position. Wilfried Beslau and Dagmar Blankner, who'd led Class 2 the previous day in their VW Fred van, started off well. Another single-seater was the Sealcoat Chenoweth of Natal's Rob Gibson, who'd finished well on day one, even without a navigator. An old hand at this sport, Gibson was looking for a good result. Despite starting 23rd the previous day, Harry Roscoe in the Protea playing card Raceco had finished within the top 10, although steering box problems had caused him some anxiety. Husband and wife team Arnold and Estelle Matier were attempting the desert race for the second time, and their Neatin Toyota Raceco had been immaculately prepared for the occasion. Class 5 leaders Alfred van Vuren and Pierre Pelser loved the sandy terrain and were powering their Sasol Toyota Hilux through the dirt with what looked like ease and skill. Second in Class 6 were Cliff Barker and Mike Redden in the SVM, who'd shaped well so far this season and are lying third in the national championships in the commercial class. After a finish in 10th place the day before, Nardis Alberts and Jack Purchase were determined to make up time in their Rapsa Raceco. Craig Hopkinson and Martin Spencer went on to win Class 7 at the end of the event, their VW Beetle having performed excellently. Back at the start, the two-wheelers got ready. With unfenced vistas before them, these Springboks fled swiftly and silently from the approaching helicopter. For the more conventionally powered, like Schilling and Thorne in the Motortech Raceco, taking and maintaining a 20-minute lead was not that easy. Soon after, we see them at this Marshall point. They've stopped with CV problems. Moving into first spot was the low-flying BP Chenoweth. Klaus Degener and Jeff Bell have every intention of retaining their position, but their best-laid plans so often go awry, as they were to discover later on. Just behind them and still leading Class 6 were Cassie Coetzee and Richard Leek in the Toyota dealer Team Hilux. At this stage, should anything befall Degener, the race could well be theirs. Not to be overlooked was former South African champ Bux Carolyn, whose Porsche-powered lubrication equipment Raceco was maintaining a steady pace. Wilfried Veslau and Dagmar Blankner weren't quite as lucky.
Nothing. It will fall in there. And then we can't push it out.
Donnie and Hello van der Merwe's Toyota Hilux had no problems. Neither did Norman and Dennis Morgenrood's Toyota.
Moving fine, 100%, no problem. And out of a sudden, 500 meters from here, horrible noise. Crown wheel and pinion broke. Gearbox. Out of the race.
At the refuel point, service crews anxiously await their teams. For some, like Harry Roscoe, it was the end of the race.
Same thing as last year, exactly the same thing. I broke the diff. The diff started making a noise, and that was the end of my race.
First in on two wheels was Willie Island on the super. Meanwhile, Degener and Bell thought that they had it in the bag. Behind them was a host of opposition. Ahead, nothing except a way home. But the Toyota Hilux showed no signs of flagging. Coetzee and Leek were still going like the clappers, and with Leek being a Springbok navigator, there was little chance of them going off course. Interim, Schilling and Thorne had sorted out their CV problem and made up some time. Would the Motortech Raceco catch up to the others and regain the lead? The race cam gives us a taste of what off-road racing is really like. Coetzee and Leek look comfortable enough, but I'd hate to see the state of their kidneys. Eventual Class 5 winners, Alfred van Vuren and Piet Pelser, had a steady run on both days in their Sasol Toyota Hilux. The Free State pair have a reputation for reliability and good performance. Dominating Class 3 last year and this year running their Chev in Class 4, Theo Coetzee and Ian Wedderburn had a relatively problem-free race, winning their class at the end of the day. The Morgenroofs, Norman and Dennis, did equally well, bringing their Toyota Bucky home to a Class 3 win. Class 2 leaders and eventual class winners were father and son duo, Stian and Halmar van Gesselen, in the little VW Beetle, who thoroughly enjoyed that two-day event. For Lesotho's Patrick Andrews, Day 2 was performed with minimal problems. Closer to home, the tension was hotting up among the vehicles. Race leaders Klaus Degener and Jeff Bell had drive shaft problems, and as luck would have it, almost within spitting distance of the finish. To the approaching Bux Carolyn in the single-seater, seeing the leaders stationary was a welcome sight. But maybe because of the Chenoweth being parked where it was, Carolyn overshot and carried straight on past the turnoff he should have taken. Precious minutes ticked by and car number 3 soon appeared in sight. Cassie Coetzee and Richard Leek's Toyota Hilux seemed as if it too would overshoot the turn. But no, a sharp and hasty swing left and they were off along the correct route. In the cab of the Toyota, the pair seemed calm and collected. As far as they were concerned, Carolyn was ahead of them, and they were in second position. But the next moment, they ground to a halt when a turbo pipe came loose. In the meantime, Carolyn had realized his earlier mistake and was back on track, speeding along in Coetzee and Leek's dust. He passed them while they were struggling to open the Toyota's bonnet, leaving two very frustrated racers behind him, so near and yet so far. At this stage of the game, Carolyn knew that victory was his. Nothing could catch him now, and indeed, nothing did. The race cam shows just what it's like driving this Porsche Kart racing car. Speeds attained are high, and the suspension so smooth it's almost unbelievable. For Brooks Carolyn, it has been a race to remember. Winning the Toyota 1000 Desert Race on his 10th attempt in a single-seater at that was truly a tremendous achievement.
For a retired racing driver, this is something for the books. Now I'm really chuffed. Cassie was unlucky, and Klaus is 3Ks out, and Richard Schilling, we were all together the last about 30 kilometers. And then Cassie got a puncture. I was behind him, and I was coming down the main road, and Klaus stopped in the middle of the road fixing something on his car, and I went straight past down to the tar road. Then I had to U-turn, and as I came in, Cassie was in front of me again with about 5Ks to go. And they were working on the bonnet, and I decided I wasn't going to stop and help them. So I drove fast. Thank you, Peter.
Well done.
Thank you very much, Peter.
It was indeed bad luck for the Coetzee Leaf team in the 4x4 Toyota Hilux. Nevertheless, a second overall and class win were not to be sneezed at, and could be considered a fair swan song for the faithful Bucky.
What about it, sir? Well done.
Klaus Degener and Jeff Bell finished third overall and second in class, arriving in pretty spectacular style on 3 wheels.
Well, I still can't believe it. It's incredible. Absolutely incredible. I mean, we had this race in the bag. We were just coasting along 11 Ks from the finish. And I remember the turn last year. It's very it's not marked the turn. It's hidden behind a tree. And we had a right rear flat early on. With only 11 Ks to go, I wasn't going to stop for a spare. Pulled the cut brake to turn the car because the brakes had gone as well. It was really weak. The car turned. I was lined up with a gate, but unfortunately when I put the power on with the right back wheel being flat, it just snapped the drive shaft clean and off.
The top 10 cars home included only 4 space frames, with 3 Toyotas, a Chev, VW and an SVM making up the balance.